Welcome to Snipes and Insights, the Monday, April 21st edition, previewing the NHL Stanley Cup Playoffs for today. I am your host, Keith Kavanaugh, alongside Tyler Madarasz. Tyler, how's it going?
It's going great now that the Stanley Cup playoffs are underway, so just pumped to get going here, and we got a long ride to go.
We had 5 games on Saturday and Sunday, and before we get started, this show is a PuckPedia show, and it's brought to you by CoolBet. Stay cool, bet responsibly, and let's just get right into it. What really caught your eye in these 5 games over the weekend?
Well, to kick things off on Saturday, we had a great game between St. Louis and Winnipeg. Kyle Connor, late regulation goal. You had a ton of stuff going on at the end of the game, which was pretty fun. And then obviously the Mikko Rantanen Bowl got underway. Colorado ended up going 1-0. And then the games on Sunday were great. Like Carolina comes out. They look like a dominant team over New Jersey. So look out for the Canes in the East. And man, the Battle of Ontario was great. You had some rough stuff near the end of that game. And the Leafs power play was clicking, so that was fun if you're a Maple Leafs fan. And obviously to end things off, the Vegas Golden Knights and Minnesota Wild. The Wild kind of kept it close, and Vegas ended up pulling it off. But, man, maybe the Wild keep that close, and it goes the distance.
100%. That was a great end to the 5-game weekend slate. And to your point, too, the Maple Leafs, 3 for 6 on the power play yesterday, clicked at 50%. But all 3 of their power plays, they scored within the first 10 seconds of each power play opportunity. So I think, to me, that was really what caught my eye. If you look at the stats, too, like Mike Kelly, I think, tweeted it out. Ottawa actually kind of dominated the play a little bit at 5-on-5, or at least had the advantage over the Maple Leafs. But at the same time, you can't take some of those stupid penalties that Ottawa took, and they have to show a little more maturity. You even saw Travis Green at the end kind of criticizing the officials a little bit, wanting for more penalties to be called. So we'll see how Ottawa takes that in stride, and if they can kind of bring it out in game 2, or if they kind of get in their heads a little bit. And also, too, all 5 home teams held serve in the first game. There wasn't a single road team or a single underdog that had won any of those first games over the weekend.
Yeah, I think all the teams that you and I picked before we got the playoffs underway ended up winning. I think a lot of people agreed with us, and a lot of people were kind of taking the chalky picks because we just think they're all going to win. But it wasn't that surprising. They all won their game ones. And, man, the Battle of Ontario is underway. We get the Battle of Florida going Tuesday. Like, we got to wait so long for that. But already pumped up for tonight's action and obviously Tuesday as well.
100%. And our friends at CoolBet probably thought that the end of the Wild Knights game was interesting. If you saw, there was the empty netter with 0.1 second left to get Vegas to cover the -1.5 on the puck line. It kind of looked like the puck might have crossed after the 0.0. Seth, our producer, can kind of put up a picture just to show you how close it was to crossing the line there. But that was a great way to end it. And I think we kind of should just dive right into the games today. So we have 4 great games, a couple of game 1s, and then 2 game 2s. So the first game we're going to talk about here is the Washington Capitals and the Montreal Canadiens. Alexander Ovechkin's quest for a second Stanley Cup. If we're looking at the lines on CoolBet tonight, we have the Canadiens as +153 underdogs, and the Capitals are -182 favorites. The over-under is set at 6. And I think the biggest question here is Logan Thompson starting in the game tonight? He came out of the starters net in practice today, but then Spencer Carberry wanted to play it down, said either goaltender could kind of get the start tonight. He also said Alexei Protas could possibly be in for game 1, although the way he participated in morning skate would assume that he's not going to be a member of this game. And Anthony Beauvillier is going to kind of slot into that first line role. So we'll see how that plays out. But what's catching your eye for this one?
Well, the goaltending's huge. Whether it's Thompson or Lindgren, it doesn't have to be a Hunter Shepard or a Clay Stevenson, which is a good thing if you're a Capitals fan. But that's huge. If you can get Logan Thompson back for game 1, that's obviously an advantage to the Washington Capitals over Samuel Montembeault. And when you just look at these two teams, you mentioned Ovechkin searching for a second cup. I think as hockey fans, we would all want to see that after what he did this season, beating Wayne Gretzky's goal scoring record. It would kind of just be a cool way to end the season. But like the Montreal Canadiens aren't just going to roll over in the series. Keith, I think you could agree. Like they have the overall more elite talent on the team, from Cole Caulfield to Nick Suzuki to Patrick Laine to Ivan Demidov now. The Habs team can be scary at times. As a team, they're obviously not as good as the Washington Capitals. Spencer Carberry's got that team playing like a squad since like week 1, week 2 of the NHL season. So the Caps are a scary team as a whole. But you know what? If some of these elite offensive players can maybe shine in game 1 for the Montreal Canadiens, they could make this a series.
100%. It looks like Ivan Demidov is going to slot in on that second line with Patrick Laine and Alexander Newhook. So it'll be interesting to see how his role plays a factor in this series. And then also with Lane Hutson, he obviously had an incredible rookie season. He's probably going to win the Calder Trophy, but his size has always been a question, but he has an unreal skill set. It'll be interesting to see how he adapts to playoff hockey. And I'm interested to see if he gets bullied around a little bit by the Tom Wilsons, the Alexander Ovechkins forechecking. So we'll see how that kind of plays out. But to your point, I think Montreal, they're kind of ahead of the curve. They got into the playoffs on the last day of the regular season, but their future is very bright.
Really bright, and I'm glad you brought up Lane Hutson because he's probably one of my favorite players to watch already in the NHL. We seen one of his brothers make his debut for the Edmonton Oilers as well, but he's going to be fun in this series. Like, you can argue in year one, he might be the best defenseman in the series. I know Jacob Chikrin's on the other side. John Carlson's been around for a long time. But man, Lane Hutson is so dynamic, and they still have Reinbacher and Mailloux coming in the future. So if Lane Hutson can dazzle, maybe do what some rookie defensemen, maybe like named Cale Makar, have done in their first years in the playoffs, could be an advantage to the Habs.
100%. And I think that kind of covers it for that game. So let's just jump right into the second game of the night. It's the other game one in this series. It's the Los Angeles Kings and the Edmonton Oilers. So as we mentioned on the preview show, the Edmonton Oilers have been struggling with injuries. It looks like Trent Frederick is day-to-day, is probably not going to play in this one, as is Evander Kane. However, for the most part, the rest of the Oilers, aside from Matthias Ekholm, are going to play in this one tonight. And for me, the thing that catches my eye is, one, the Kings had the best home record in the regular season. So are they going to be able to win this game and games 2 at home, or the Oilers going to kind of be able to get a split? And then also, to me, it's going to be interesting to see how the Kings deploy their lines against the Oilers on home ice. They have a solid top 3 centers in Anze Kopitar, Quentin Byfield, and Philip Deneau. Deneau's one of the best defensive forwards in the NHL, and then Kopitar's obviously had that reputation prior to him. So it'll be interesting to see as the Oilers on the other side of things have split up Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl to start, how the Los Angeles Kings want to defend the Oilers.
Well, yeah, having the last line change at home is going to be big for Jim Hiller and the LA Kings, and they're already at an advantage playing at Crypto.com Arena. We know they were the best home team all year, and when you talk about those 3 centers, they're all just so dangerous. They can roll these lines. From what we know, they're healthy, those centers, and when you look at the Edmonton Oilers, it's like, what's Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid even at? Like, are they at 80% health, 90% health? They're definitely not at 100% health, so hopefully they can kind of just battle through it and extend the series and maybe get by the LA Kings. Another thing, you brought up the centers there. Like, I kind of like some 4th line, 3rd line players, but like Jeff Malott making it into game 1 for Jim Hiller, I think is a big storyline for him. He's a pretty cool story. So that's something I'm looking forward to in the bottom 6. But the Oilers goaltending is the key to me. Stuart Skinner is probably going to have a really short leash by Chris Knoblauch, and Calvin Pickard's there to maybe take the reins in this series. Like, if the Kings win game 1 and 2, you're probably going to see Pickard starting in game 3. So hopefully Stuart Skinner can play some great hockey. He brought them to the Cup final last year, but he's been pretty shaky at times this season.
And if we're looking at the cool bet odds for the game tonight, the Kings are a slight favorite at minus 128 on the money line. The Oilers are plus 109. The over-under is set at 5.5. So CoolBet thinks this might be a lower scoring game than the other games on the board. So it'll be interesting to see if this is a defensive battle or if the superstars can kind of take advantage. Another thing that I'm keeping my eyes on is the defensive pairing on the Oilers of Darnell Nurse and Evan Bouchard. Darnell Nurse had kind of gotten a little bit bullied last playoff series. However, this year he's played 114 minutes together at 5-on-5 with Evan Bouchard, and they've actually controlled about 64% of the expected goal share in those minutes. It was spread across 57 games, so it was a lot of like 2-3 minute shifts here and there across those games. So it'll be interesting to see how these guys really can kind of finesse themselves into a playoff series and when they're going to be expected to play 15-20 minutes a night together.
Yeah, a much maligned D pairing, isn't it? Like Darnell Nurse for his price tag. A lot of Edmonton Oilers fans we know hate him. And at times he can be pretty good out there and productive, but at other times he can get walked. He can throw a pizza up the middle, and Evan Bouchard can kind of do the same thing. He's pretty one-dimensional. So it is a pretty intriguing D pairing. We'll see if it lasts. Chris Knoblauch might be able to change things up. Hopefully he can get some of these D healthy as well. You mentioned Matthias Ekholm. Hopefully he can come back maybe later in the series. Doesn't look like it, but if they can get by the Kings, hopefully in round 2. But man, the Nurse Bouchard pairing, I just hope they play good in game number 1 here tonight in Los Angeles.
Exactly. To your point, too, fans get maligned about Darnell Nurse because of his salary. If we're going to PuckPedia, Darnell Nurse makes $9.25 million a year on an 8-year contract. I think there's 5 or 6 years left remaining on that deal. So I think that's part of the reason why, even though he's a solid defenseman, a lot of fans are kind of looking at that price tag and wondering if the value is there. So I think that's kind of going to be some big stories in that game. And now we have a couple game twos tonight. So two of these, the rest of these games had already played game one. So we have the Jets against the Blues tonight. Game two, the Jets won that game 5-3. They're up 1-0 in the series. The odds of this game tonight, the Jets are minus 192 favorites on the money line, and the St. Louis Blues are plus 162. The over/under is set at 5.5 as well. What really caught your eye in this game one, and what kind of adjustments are you looking for St. Louis to make in game two?
First of all, plus 162. It's like I kind of like the Blues in game two after the way they played in game one. I thought they could have won that game. They got a couple goals from Jordan Kyrou. Robert Thomas just looked like playoff Robert Thomas. He was great again. So I think what caught my eye was their big players playing pretty well. Even Jimmy Snuggerud played well, and he's getting up to the top line tonight for the St. Louis Blues. So that's huge. I kind of like the Blues in this game. And on the other side, the Jets did get a goal from Kyle Connor. He's so clutch in those times. And they got some depth, like Iafallo. We talked about him in our preview. Getting up to the top six or the first line at that is huge for him with Velarde out. And then, like, you got a goal from Jared Anderson-Dolan. When you're getting that, if you're Scott Arniel, you're probably winning hockey games. So I think it's going to be another really tight game. Maybe this one goes to overtime in Winnipeg, and wouldn't be shocked if the St. Louis Blues tie the series at 1.
And for me as a fan, I love to see a tight series. I love to see when you get 6-7 games and not just kind of a gentleman's sweep or a sweep. So to that point, I really want St. Louis to kind of make those adjustments. And then to your point too about Jimmy Snuggerud, like it'll be interesting to see how he does on the top line with Robert Thomas and Pavel Buchnevich tonight. Because in game one, he played with Braden Shen and he played with Jordan Kyrou. They had almost 10 minutes together, and they didn't have a single shot attempt. 11-0 in favor of the Winnipeg Jets, and a lot of that had to do with the second line of Winnipeg. Cole Perfetti, Vladislav Nemeshnikov, and Nino Niederreiter. They were leading the way. They had 13-3 shot attempts advantage, 6-0 scoring chance advantage, and almost 95% of the expected goal share in those minutes that they played together. So it'll be interesting to see how the Blues can kind of mitigate that tonight. And then Connor Hellebuyck too, like he wasn't a superstar by any means, but he made the saves when he needed to, and he won the game for the Winnipeg Jets. So it'll be interesting to see St. Louis has to take advantage of a game where Connor Hellebuyck is not, top elite peak form. And I don't think they did that in game one. So hopefully, for their sake, that Connor Hellebuyck also isn't elite tonight, but we'll see how that kind of plays out.
Yeah, that's kind of why I think the Blues might win this hockey game. Like Binnington wasn't great on the other side either. I think you would agree, but both goaltenders might lock in tonight. You might see a bit of a low scoring game. And like the Blues depth, I really, really like. Like we saw Oscar Sundqvist score in that game as well, talking about Jared Anderson-Dolan on the other side of the ice. Like these depth players are going to come up huge for both head coaches. So who does it tonight? Maybe it's not a Robert Thomas or a Jordan Kyrou. Maybe it's a bottom six guy and the Blues get a dramatic overtime victory.
And the superstars are what brings the eyeballs to the games, but it's the depth that wins the championships. It's the depth deals at the trade deadline that usually put the teams over the edge into the Stanley Cup conversation. So we'll see how that kind of plays out tonight. And then the last game, and this series again, this is the series I'm most excited about. I think Tyler also is most excited about. We have the Colorado Avalanche versus the Dallas Stars. We have Gabriel Landeskog. He is coming back into the lineup. A lot of that is due to the injury to Ross Colton. He was banged up in game one. The Avalanche about 30 minutes ago just activated Landeskog off LTIR. All signals are pointing to him playing tonight. I know Bednar wanted to get him in for game 3. If we're looking at cool bet, the Avalanche are minus 147 favorites on the money line. The Stars are plus 125 underdogs. The over-under is set at 6. And Gabriel Landeskog actually is plus 365 tonight to score a goal in his first NHL action in over 3 years. So you're getting a lot of value on that pick. Tyler, what were your thoughts on game one, and what are you looking forward to most in this game?
Well, first off, Keith, I would hammer that bet. Like Gabe Landeskog scoring tonight. If you have the anytime goal at your disposal, you are betting it tonight. I think a lot of people are because Gabe Landeskog is going to be so ready. We saw him score in his conditioning stint with the Colorado Eagles, but doesn't matter where he plays from you, whether it's the first line, the third line, whether he gets power play time on the first unit or the second unit. I think Gabe Landeskog, just to have him there on the bench. The last time he was on the bench wearing the C, he lifted the Stanley Cup as a member of this team. So it's just going to fire these veterans up, everyone who's been a part of this team since their Cup victory. And man, Gabe Landeskog is going to be a part of this if they go on a deep run. So I liked game one. Obviously, a couple weird goals like the Arturi Lehkonen goal. I still have no idea how that happened. Like, no, he didn't mean to do that, but it somehow went off his foot and in. And I was like, Jake Ottinger must just be like, what just happened? So maybe the Stars don't have those bad bounces go against them. That would certainly help. But I think the Avs are just going to be propelled by their captain returning to the ice.
Yeah, Arturi Messi is what they're calling him in the streets. So I think, it looks like Miro Heiskanen, again, is going to be out for game two, which was clear how much he's missed in that Dallas Stars lineup. If we're looking to, I think for a 5-1 game, it was relatively close until the end. It was pretty even at 5-on-5 between the scoring chances and the expected goal share between the Stars and the Avalanche. So, I mean, like, Dallas didn't really get dominated per se. Like, they were in that game, and just because it was a 5-1 score doesn't necessarily indicate the lopsidedness of the game. Like, it was pretty close, and I think I'm interested to see what Dallas could do. They don't want to lose both games at home ice and then go to Colorado down 2-0. That's not a recipe for success, and I think they're going to tighten up some things tonight. We'll see if Jake Ottinger in net can really kind of steal a game for Dallas at home. He's been one of the best goaltenders in the NHL over the last few seasons. I think that's a big key to them. Their defense isn't as strong as it was with Miro Heiskanen, so we'll see how they can kind of maintain. And I'm interested, like you said, to see where Landeskog ends up. He looks like he's going to start on that third line with Coyle and Kiviranta. He'll probably get some second power play looks as well. They might not want to overextend him, though, and try and just see where his conditioning is at. But for me, like, I'm most excited about that game. I think it's going to be awesome. I think Dallas is going to be rocking. For a market that isn't necessarily a hockey market, I feel like they have a pretty good atmosphere there.
Yeah, and I don't even think conditioning will be a problem, right? He's been working out for so long, been skating on the ice, played a couple games down with the Eagles, as I mentioned. So whether he plays 10 minutes or 15, I think Gabe Landeskog just kind of being around is going to be huge. And to your points about the Dallas Stars, like, yeah, the blue line without Heiskanen, it looked okay at times. Like, Alexander Petrovic being in as well is kind of worrying if you're a Stars fan. You're like, bring us Miro Heiskanen back. We desperately need him, but we'll see what they can do. My two predictions for tonight is I think Jets Blues goes to OT, and maybe the Blues get a winner to tie it, the series at 1. And I think Avs Stars game 2 goes to overtime as well. Don't know who's going to win it, but I think we get 2 overtimes tonight, both in the game 2s.
I think we're due for an overtime. I saw I saw like the odds for, over under for how many overtimes there'd be in the first round was like set at 10.5, and we haven't really had any so far. So I think we're definitely due for an overtime game. My little bold prediction tonight is I think Montreal might steal one in Washington, an early one. We'll see what happens. But at the same time, I think I think all 4 of these games are going to be great tonight. I think we're in for another great slate of NHL playoffs. And yeah, I think that's the end of our show. Any final thoughts here, Tyler?
I like the Montreal prediction. That would be a huge upset in game 1 on the road in DC. So maybe some of that elite talent comes out on display tonight, like a Laine, Caulfield, Suzuki. But no, I'm just fired up for 4 really, really good games, and we'll see everyone tomorrow.
Perfect. Keep checking in here every single day. You'll get the preview of the slate of games right before the games actually happen. So you're well informed. You're well ready to go. You have myself. You have Tyler. You have our producer, Seth, behind doing all the graphics and animations. And we'll see you guys tomorrow.